So, I think that we've just seen like a lot of shared experiences happen. People that had these Occupy crackdowns happen, that was an experience very similar to the RNC and G20 type crackdowns that they've done before. So everybody got to experience the extent to which the system would coordinate and try to shut them down. Also, I would add quickly, too, that the IACP, I know, had published some kind of internal document about Occupy and doing, essentially to encourage police officers to, get this thing shut down. So the IACP and the repression of Occupy is probably a subject that needs to be plumbed a lot further. So I just say, laying stuff out there, a lot of times it takes bite-sized pieces. Sometimes it takes short videos, but also sometimes I think longer videos, such as this one, can really lay out a complete picture of the feeling. So people don't just feel like it's a little quick snap.
No, I understand. It personalizes, it illustrates the ridiculous, cartoonish level of hypocrisy. But I think you hit the heart of it. What is some international private group of police chiefs doing telling our local police what to do? What is the CIA doing, and it's illegal, as everybody knows, to be setting up threat fusion centers that they're in control of? All of this is a joke. So just like we had 800 cities and 5 states say no to the Patriot Act, they said, oh, that's symbolic. No, it's more than that. We've had 2 states pass laws against the NDAA. All of this is happening. We go in and say, no, this is illegal. This is a 10th Amendment violation. As Ron Paul's pointed out, you can't be doing this. Stop coming in here and taking over our police department. We live here in Minnesota. Yes. We live in Texas. We live in New York. We live in Maine. We live in Florida. Get out. I mean, people get that. Get out.
Yeah, absolutely. And fortunately, here in Minnesota, we still have the Minnesota Data Practices Act. So I'm hoping that we can, get all the emails behind this program. I think that would be really helpful. So people have to keep making document requests every way you can. You'll find a lot of details that you didn't expect. A lot of weird little coordination groups up to different things.
No, exactly. They're lazy. If you hit 5 different groups, they'll deny you in 3, but be too lazy to catch the other 2.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, yes. Sending out data requests to obscure places that aren't expecting them is one of the best approaches to getting at deeply buried stories. So that would be definitely one suggested approach I would recommend for everybody. Get that video camera out there, get those data requests out there, start pulling that stuff together, and then if you can, make that impactful case and put them really on the spot, like that's what you have to do to really affect the flow of decision making, which happens in these authoritarian bureaucracies that we're all so concerned about, rightfully so.
Wow. Well, I'm excited about the work you guys are doing, all the groups there. And I mean, I've seen a lot of activism out of Minnesota since 4 years ago. I mean, I saw it before, but since everybody saw the Fed command and demand and set up those innocent activists and send them to prison with the Molotov cocktails, I think that's really gotten people energized. I'm watching that from afar, but am I right?
Right. Well, and I think, I mean, Minneapolis has really bore the brunt of a lot of FBI COINTELPRO operations, especially in the kind of anarchist and socialist scene going on. But people have learned from experience. People have learned about grand jury resistance. People have learned about the operational patterns of informants. People have learned to look out for their friends and have a good sense of how people operate. And I think that those experiences actually contributed to a base which helped make the Occupy movement achieve more tangible traction and more tangible benefits, and not simply just get played by the usual bag of tricks, generally speaking. And I think that that's been effective. But I would say that a lot of us here feel like we've been around the block with freaky government suppression, and we're not backing down anytime soon. And we're going to get the word out so people actually understand.
Have you found that the more you resist, the stronger you get? I mean, resistance is victory.
Yeah, I think so. I think once you get momentum really rolling, then you can really start making things happen. People see that. It gets new people motivated, because what we're really, I would say broadly, that the Occupy movement is about getting people to snap out of passivity, out of being passive spectators, and getting them to do their own stuff and have agency in their own lives, but also not take orders from cadres of establishment people from whatever form of the establishment that's out there, but getting people to have agency in their own lives and showing them that they can do that they can take action themselves and not just sort of fob off responsibility through representatives and bureaucracies and stuff like that. So I think that that's been successful, and I think that applies to everybody, regardless of
exactly. Instead of just begging some bureaucrat, you can show where they violated the laws and things, and show them who's boss. I mean, the power of activism. So many people just sit back and never get involved, but once you get involved, there's no going back. to that sanitized world that's destroying our society.
Right, but also too, it's important when we challenge very difficult things, when we have, a whole line of, turtled up riot police, when we're dealing with, documents that talk about rounding people up and taking all their rights away and stuff. We have to remember is that we also never want to be conveyors for the sense of fear, and that's why I've always tried to use humor as a way to kind of like cut these daunting opponents down to size, because it's all a farce. It's a put on. It's a show. They're big puffy guys, big like fake front and all that stuff. So I mean, the issues are serious in all this repression, but if we use humor, we can defang.
Well, I agree with you, but what you said is absolutely central at the base of this. I miscalculate and think that the general public, on average, is my mindset. If somebody tells me there's a great dark threat coming, I immediately want to get motivated to fight it. But I realize that when I sit here and state how serious this is, a lot of people get scared, but they've got to understand the system has amassed all this blustering power because they are weak, and you don't realize how strong you are until you engage it. The fear is if we do cower and give in to them, then they win. And that's why they're amassing bigger and bigger giant tanks. I mean, they might come up with something, the size of the Empire State Building to roll down the street to scare us. But that's because
what they had in Oakland like a couple of days ago, that monster tank that the Oakland Police Department rolled out against May Day.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it shows how truly weak they are, and the system better hope. All these little front minions better hope it doesn't go to something physical, because then it's not going to be people facing their black tank out in the street. It's going to be something entirely different. And again, these cops, military, they're just people that are part of the system as well. We've all been under this. We need to reach out to them now, not just sit there and talk about some physical confrontation.
Right, and that's why I said, we're all in the web of power somewhere, and so we can start pulling on those strings to kind of get those people unraveled out of those authoritarian sort of blocks and networks and say, listen, like, you need to wake up. Like, your kids are going to live basically in a police state controlled by the banks where we're all debt slaves unless you start working on this issue, because it's really, really getting bad. And it's, it hasn't been getting better anytime lately, except like through openings like the Occupy movement, through other openings. We've been raising these issues, but the trajectory has been really bad. So, but we can all intervene, and we can prod at those people in the system and start showing them different things that erode their loyalty to the authoritarian trend.
Well, I think we've had an amazing banter here, Dan Fight, and I hope you'll come back as a correspondent from Minnesota for us on a routine basis. Thank you so much. 2-minute closing points if you haven't made some points you wanted to cover.
Yeah, again, I will just simply call upon everybody out there that you guys can do this stuff. We don't have like some magic like toolkit. We basically use live video, little cell phone videos, that kind of thing. It's like you got to get out there in the community, have a good sense of who's around, who gets word of bad plans coming down the pike. But everybody can do this. There's a huge opportunity right now to, in particular, go after the war on drugs, which is a major wing of the total authoritarian trajectory. And I personally am really hoping that the war on drugs can be challenged to the core and then finally shut down, and we can end the prison industrial complex and this abusive, system of statism and exploitation and dehumanization that we've documented here. It's repellent, and people sense that, and they're reacting appropriately. But anybody can make this happen, so get out there and do it. That's my suggestion.
I agree with you. It's not just a wing. The drug war is at the very heart of everything. We've got to end it. And people say, oh, you want people on drugs. As you know, countries that have decriminalized, drug use goes down generally by about half. It takes all the money out of it. And there's not these crack zombies running around robbing people to get money to go buy crack that goes to a big bank. And every time you ask the cops, hey, that bank's laundering the money, they laugh at you. That's above my pay grade. But I think about my children who will be teenagers soon, and they're going to be out there in the middle of this. And if they're dumb enough to, use drugs or something, they're going to have the cops preying on them. And again, do the cops want their kids preyed on? I mean, this is just so, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and also, too, the other thing about it is that the war on drugs and the battle to repress the Occupy movement is really a battle over public space, because Occupy says all of us should have agency to make change and influence our lives. But the system wants us to be passive spectators. And so in Minneapolis, they're trying to rail through an incredibly expensive new NFL stadium, which will put us all in debt slavery to bond payments and that type of
corporate
thing.
welfare,
Yeah,
again.
Passive, yeah, and being a passive spectator and not being engaged in our own lives. And so what things like Occupy can do, what things like getting out there and shooting videos yourselves can do, is reverse that authoritarian spectacle, which is one of the main features of fascist and authoritarian political regimes. Reversing the spectacle is always a great idea.
So get off the bench, get in the game. Resistance is victory. Dan Fight, great job. Thank you so much for your amazing report.
Thank you, Alex. It's great to talk with you about this important issues.
Very exciting. Well, that was an amazing interview. I hope that all of you out there get this information out to your friends and family pronto. It's up to you to spread this video out to everyone you know. Only you can resist the globalist. Because, you know, he's talking about big banks taking over and debt slaves. They're not just people that want you to be debt slaves. They're eugenicists. They are anti-human globalists who absolutely want you dead. They use poverty as a tool of control. All right, amazing transmission. Great job to the crew. Don't forget, if you believe in this information, want to help spread alternative research, become a subscriber. We got a 15-day free trial running at prisonplanet.tv. Until tomorrow, I'm Alex Jones signing off. The rest is in your court.